Okay, Dawn has written a couple things. Dawn, are you in a place? Where are you
I'm
here? Yeah, there
here.
you are.
I'm
Are you
here. I'm listening to everything.
okay? Are you in a place where you feel like you can talk, or you
Yeah.
just okay?
I'm right here. Can you see me? Mhm.
Now I can. Yeah.
Hello.
You had a couple of scenarios. If you want to pick one,
Mhm. So I actually, yeah, I have both of them. They shouldn't be that long at all. I actually have a full answer to one, and I just want to see if it's correct because they're very sensitive. Um, and they're not like normal. I mean, they are counseling questions, but they're not normal scenario counseling. So, they were presented to me by kind of like a college counseling panel. And so I'll start with number two because I have that one kind of written out. It may be completely wrong, Dr. Bedard. That's why I'm asking you. So the scenario is a counseling student, excuse me, a college student is in a car. Um, they they tell me where they are, and they're driving towards a bridge, and they tell me that they're going to jump off of a bridge. So they call me as a therapist, and they tell me, "Hey, I'm going to kill myself, and I just wanted you to know." And it's a college student. So what do I do with that? So my response, what I wrote down was, I would ask them if they have 20 minutes of their time to help me better understand why they're making this decision today. This is me talking to them on the phone. If they agree to allow me to speak to them for 20 minutes as they're flying down the street, I would ask them to pull over to a safe location so that we can begin our conversation. So I wouldn't begin the conversation until they agree to pull over, if they agree to pull over. Once they are parked and parked safely and the car is turned off, I would ask them to take a few seconds to just inhale and exhale to kind of calm down a little bit, allowing me into the space with them, me in the car, so that I can feel what they're feeling. Once they feel that I am in the vicinity of them with them in the vehicle, I would ask them if they could verbalize to me the experience or experiences that have caused them to want to make this decision today. If they choose to share it, I'm hoping all of this goes perfectly. Like if all the chips fall as they may. If they decide to share with me why they're making this decision to jump off of a bridge today, and while they're doing that, the second question is who would I call as a therapist? Because you have client-patient confidentiality. So I have on here that I would, while my client is speaking to me and sharing to me why they're making this decision today, I would call 911 on a separate line. And then I have in question marks, I would call the student's the emergency contact if permitted. So I have question marks by that because I don't know if I'm able to do that. So that's why I wanted to get your information on that, Dr. Bernard. Again, this is if everything goes perfect. So I wanted to ask you about that, if that sounds about appropriate. And then I guess you would could give me the answer if he says, "No, I'm not pulling over. No, I don't want to talk to you. I'm 5 seconds from the bridge and I want to die today." Like, how do I handle that?
this was a real situation or something made up?
No, this was something that was made up. Oh, absolutely not. No, it was made
Because it
up.
sounds like a movie.
Oh, no, it wasn't a movie.
Okay.
It wasn't a movie, but it could be a movie. It wasn't a movie. It was
Yeah.
actually presented. My daughter is a college student. Well, excuse me, she's a high schooler going into college. And I went to go visit a college and they like presented this in a panel that I went to go see. And I was like, wow, this will be a really good question because as a therapist, I would want to know how I would handle this. So I was like, I'm going to ask Dr. Bedard about this. Like, how would I handle a situation like this?
Well, what do you guys think? Why would you guys handle this non-situation that potentially could be a
That
situation?
could be a situation. I can read the question again if you need me to.
Well, let's break this down in two parts. The first part would be ethically, what are we, um, in
Tied
terms of like
to.
consent,
Mhm.
or I'm sorry, like HIPAA
Yep.
compliance and confidentiality,
Mhm.
and what kind of duty or do we have or not have, that kind of thing. Let's break it
Yes.
down in that part first, and then the
Mhm.
second part to me would be like, okay, what do we do? Like you were saying, hey, can you pull over? Can you take some
Right.
breaths? Can we talk through this?
Mhm.
Let's separate these two for a second, just for the sake of discussion
Yes,
and to keep them. Not that we should keep everything separate, but just for our sake of discussion.
that
So
works.
let's take the first one first. If we think ethically, like what can we do or not do in this
Mhm.
situation?
Mhm.
What would you guys say?
Call the authorities.
We may call the authorities. We don't have a duty to warn like California,
Mhm.
but we may, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, and this isn't someone going to hurt someone else. This is someone going to hurt themselves,
Mhm.
correct? So the
Yes.
duty to warn thing, like the California law, is if someone's going to hurt someone else.
Mhm.
That's a separate thing, right? This is
Yes.
someone saying they're going to hurt, like I'm going to hurt myself.
Right.
Okay.
So they're driving towards the bridge, and then what was the ending of this? I didn't.
So they can jump from it. So basically committing suicide.
Okay.
It's not. This one is black and white to me ethically.
Yeah.
It's like call whoever you need to call
911. Yeah.
because
So I
someone's going to
have 'em
hurt
here.
themselves. That's not a breach of confidentiality.
So I can call 911, and then I have also to call the student emergency contact if permitted, and if I have the information.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because I know.
mean that's automatic.
So do I need to ask them? I don't have to ask them to contact their their emergency person, right? I can do it without their consent.
No, you don't have to ask them
Yeah.
any of those
Yep.
things.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You can talk to them about it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a necessity.
I don't need consent. Okay.
And honestly, what happens when you meet with people the first time, and when people fill out any kind of paperwork, any kind of intake paperwork, it will always tell you here's what
The reasons.
confidentiality means,
Mm-hmm.
and the times that we break confidentiality are these things, and this
Mhm,
would be
yeah.
one of these things listed, right? So
agree.
they would have signed it,
Mhm.
and so
And then doing harm to yourself.
right.
Mhm,
Just
I
this
agree.
is the same as I had a client one time that I was talking to, excuse me, couple, and they called me this was a while ago. They called me on the phone. I wasn't supposed to meet with them. They called me on the phone, hysterical. The guy was threatening to hurt himself. The wife got on the phone. He's going to hurt himself. I mean, it was like a whole chaotic thing. And I just said, I think I told her, call 911. And I called, I think I called the sheriff's office in that particular place
Mhm.
for like a welfare check, wellness check,
Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
to let them know to go do that. So you can handle it that way as well. The problem with that is depending on what someone may or may not do, that might be a way for them to accost a police officer, and that would cause harm to them too. So those things are the kind of things to think about, but you don't have there's nothing holding you back confidentiality wise to contact help, like to get help for this person.
Have you ever had someone who has threatened to commit suicide? One of your clients?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And how do
multiple
you handle
times.
that?
Well, I mean, every suicidal ideation is serious, no matter what. So you go through, so you guys know, like, ask questions, right? Like, if do we have a plan? And they give you a plan, is the plan lethal or not, right? You guys know, right? There's things you're looking for, steps you're kind of
Mhm.
going through,
Mhm.
right? And obviously, if you know your client, you might know maybe background, some background information maybe about some certain things.
Mhm.
And the more they talk and the more specific they are, with their plan, the more lethal their plan, obviously, the more you're going
Yeah,
to be,
like a risk assessment.
right, you're going to be more involved. And so from that standpoint, if you can keep them in front of you and say, hey, let's talk through this. And like you were saying, when, keep them kind of talking, but also help them start I personally would try my best, if I could, to generate any kind of hope that I could, like any kind of glimmer of hope of something, anything that I could. Because hope might give you enough time for them to at least kind of like start thinking about reasons to live versus reasons to die. And so that's what I would do personally.
Got it.
Obviously there's no harm agreement, these are all online. I mean, no harm agreements you can do, different types of contracts you can, and this would be after you've walked them through a few things, depending on if they've got, if they have people listed like in their contacts, you might want to contact, those folks. Hey, is there anyone we can talk to, we can reach out to? I've never had anyone say, no, I'm not talking to anybody. Most of the time when people start talking, they're willing to talk to people or willing to reach out to, XYZ person, and just have them come up there, have them, come up there right then. I mean, I had a client who was 17 that was in the office, and her parents brought her in, and literally right then you could tell she was just going to walk out and end her life. And the parents weren't really picking up on it necessarily, but we just stopped everything. And I said, I think we need to go to the hospital. And this is why. And we kind of talked, and then she kind of broke down, and they got her to the emergency room, saved the girl's life. They took her, saved her life. I mean, they didn't really know what was going on. But I've done that with other clients where you bring other people in to help them, whether if all else fails in certain situations, if you can get someone to an emergency room, emergency rooms are there to handle situations like this, because they'll first of all stabilize people, right? They'll make sure they're safe. They'll get them checked out. There's always a psychiatrist or some type of a doctor on call that will go do an assessment, and then they'll kind of walk through if they need to sedate them or whatever. So that's also something, like you were saying, call 911. If you can get them to the emergency room, that's something that can be very, very helpful. I think so. Getting other people involved, I think, is all, I think it's a good thing. The only wrench in this whole story to me is the fact that this person's calling on the phone driving. They're not face to face or even like virtually, right? We're not, they're driving. That's the only wrench, because at that point it's like, well, how would I know where they're at? Or you know what I mean? Like, unless they're telling you, which
Well, it
goes
does
back.
say the second part says they finally tell me where they are. So
Right. So that's probably a wrench in this particular scenario. I guess this could happen, and maybe has happened. This would definitely be I could see this being really interesting in a college setting, talking about this for sure.
Yeah.
As an academic or exercise.
Yeah, and I think about if I said, what if it were go the other way, where they were like, no, I'm not giving you the 20 minutes. No, I'm not pulling over. My answer was, I feel like this person is still seeking some type of emotional connection, spiritual connection, which is the reason that they called. If they just wanted to drive off a bridge and kill themselves, they would have never called. They would have never called, whether it was a hotline, their parents, their best friends, 911. They just would have done it. So it feels like they're still reaching out for some type of help, or they're reaching out for some type of, I don't know, guidance of some kind. That's my thought. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that wants to, if someone wants to end their life, they will end their life without, like you said, without telling people about it. This is, yeah, I think what makes this kind of interesting is the phone call in a car driving. That's very interesting, that part. Because I don't disagree that they're reaching out for something. I don't disagree with that. That's why I would do my best to point out hopeful things, not toxic positive things, not you're fine, everything's fine, not that. Not that. Like actual glimmers of hope, specific things. Which that's what makes our job a skill, right? An art form. Then it's not just like a science, but it's an art form, and that takes a little bit of skill to do. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. And then we have the second one that was a whole lot harder for me to answer. This one was a whole lot more complicated. Again, a college student, they have a gun. They have a gun and bullets in their apartment, and they called to tell me, or to call to say that they are going to kill themselves the next day. So what would we do in that situation as therapists? So I guess they're giving us a 24-hour notice. So I don't know. The first thing that came to my mind was to ask if anyone else is in the apartment at the time. I don't know why that was important to me, because they're not even going to kill anybody that day. They said they were going to do it the next day, but that was the first question that came to my mind. Is there anybody else there?
Yeah.
Why did you ask that question?
I don't know. I guess because in my mind, I was going to say, can you put them on the phone so I could help? They could like physically take the gun away, which would then probably incite them to kill people right then, which is exactly the reason why I'm talking to Dr. Bedard, because I don't think that's the right thing I should do.
Well, no, I think it's a good question that you asked, because even though they said I'm going to kill myself tomorrow, it could be that they might try to harm someone else
today. I know. So I think as a parent, my first mind is to go to, is there anybody else there with you? And I'm really doing it from the sense of maybe someone else that's physically there can help me. But then I think, well, what if that incites anger?
Well, I mean, this situation's a little different. This would be like a hotline call to me. This would be someone calling a hotline, not calling a therapist. To me, this is not like I'm in my office and I get a phone call. That's not what this is to me. This is like a hotline call.
Let's say they were to call an emergency room. Some people do that sometimes.
That's a whole, listen, when people are going to harm themselves, there's all bets are off on trying to keep people safe. They're going to keep people safe. Like, for example, if they call an emergency room, then they're going to immediately call the authorities. They're going to call 911. That's what's going to happen. That's immediate. Same thing on a campus. Campuses are going to be very proactive with trying to de-escalate the situation. That's what's going to happen. This to me is like I'm not saying this couldn't happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm sure that there's a reason why they're bringing these questions up.
So let's say our client called our phone number after hours, and then every therapist say, hey, if this is an after hour call, you need to call 911. But let's say they don't call 911 and they call you and they leave this message on your voicemail, which you probably wouldn't get until the next day. But let's just say you happen to call your voicemail at 7:05 and you get this. What would you do? Like, they left a voicemail and say, hey, this is Dawn. I'm in my apartment and I have a gun and some bullets. And I'm thinking about killing myself tomorrow. Give me a call when you get a chance.
Well, what would you do?
I just asked you, what would you do?
Well,
I told you what I would do. I probably would be like, is there anyone there with you? Like, of course I would call 911. Of course I would call the emergency contact. Like, but I mean, would I call that client back immediately? Like, you tell me, what do I call the client back immediately? Or do you call 911 immediately?
I mean,
how important is life?
Yeah,
like I said earlier, the ethics say we may call if somebody's homicidal. We may, I don't think there's anything prohibiting us. And it's better to err on the side of caution, in my opinion, and, you know.
Well, I'm not, yeah, and I'm not responsible for people.
You know,
True.
here's the second time
True.
they said this
Are they on your
also in
caseload?
pre-prac. Right. You guys, I think you guys keep saying that, and don't get me wrong, Dr. Bedore, I think we get that, but as new let me speak for myself. As a new therapist, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, are they on your caseload kind of a thing? Are you in some way responsible for them because they're on your caseload, or are they just a random caller? How they know, how to call you?
Yeah, we just said they are our client. Let's say this is one of your clients. And let's say, okay, let's do this scenario that we called the police and they went to the apartment that we had on their emergency contact, and the police is like, oh, somebody else lives there. They said that person that you named doesn't even live there, so you don't even have the right address. So they did go to where we sent them, and that our client doesn't even live there anymore. So now do we call the client? Like,
No,
what do we do?
Yeah, we're in nebulous land now. Now we're in what if land.
That's why I want you to get back on the phone with your client. So
Well,
let's say you're
let me take a step back here for a second. Let me
okay.
take a step back for a second. We are not responsible for what our clients do or don't do. It doesn't mean we don't. It doesn't mean we don't care about what they do or don't do. Okay, I don't make personal decisions for anybody. No one. I don't make personal decisions for my children. Now, do I like their decisions? No, some of them I do not like. Well, are there consequences for decisions? Absolutely. Our job as therapists are not to be totally responsible for what they do or don't do. That doesn't mean we are not responsible for trying to help them, trying to care for them, trying to keep them safe, trying to do everything we can to help them. That's not, do you understand what I'm saying? We have to get into this place. To me, we have to get into this place where my agency is my agency. That's mine. It's not anybody else's. Okay. So Dawn's agency is Dawn's. This client's agency is theirs. Now, are they intoxicated? Are they, high? We can go down this list. We can what if this thing to death for sure. Well, what about this? Well, then what about this? We can do that. There's obviously something going on. There's an issue somewhere, right? There's something going on. So we slow things down as much as we can and handle it one issue at a time, right? If you called the cops and they showed up and they're like, that person doesn't live here, that's weird. That's weird. Something weird's going on with that. I think it sounds like you don't feel comfortable with this idea that you're not responsible for the clients.
Not yet.
I mean, isn't that it's what would a reasonable person do, and then best practice as a therapist? I mean, if it went to litigation, if something happened and you ended up in a courtroom and our licensure was, being questioned, well, what would a reasonable person do? And then what is the best practice?
It depends on the situation. Like these two situations we're talking about today are pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Or on the extreme side for sure. So that's why we have training, like what the thing Missy brought up. That's why we have sex trafficking training now that we have to take. That's why we'd have to do CEUs, right? On certain, like for example, if you let's use the college age group for a second, since that's the one you kind of brought up. There's specific trainings you can do just with that age group on like whatever the like let's say I'm just saying like suicidal ideation in college. Suicide rates have gone up. Even before COVID, we're going up. Actually, that college age is not the highest rate. It's actually older adults is a little bit higher than college age. People don't really know that, but that's actually what it is. But you can take CEUs on that some of these, not these particular specific situations, but similar situations, right, on campuses where you talk specifically about like, hey, what's my ethical like ethically, what am I supposed to do? And then
Yeah.
clinically, what am I, how do I handle this? Or
Mhm.
like de-escalation, right? Like, how do I do, like the question to me is like, do I call this person back? And if I do, how do I de-escalate this? Like, what do I do or say or don't do
Mhm.
to help de-escalate? Which is why
Mhm.
you're saying, asking questions. Is someone
Right.
there? Right. So how I would do it is probably going to be maybe different than some other people, more than likely. And some of it's depending on your client too. Like if you know them, like you would be able to talk to them specifically to them about specific things, right? If you knew, like, I don't know, like if you knew things that were in their life at the time that you could bring up to use to help them kind of de-escalate, kind of, that kind of thing, versus if you're on a hotline, if you're just a hotline operator and someone calls, that's a totally different, you got a totally different protocol you're going to walk through. And so to me, it's a couple of things. The first thing is, it's not uncommon at all for any of us to feel very responsible for, or at least feel really pulled towards, like, I want to make sure they're okay, or I want to make sure that this person makes good decisions or doesn't do this thing again. That's not uncommon. That's why we're in this. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because we want to help people, and we want to help people help themselves, right? But if we do it thinking that we need to take over their agency, then we're going to really struggle big time. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
And that makes a lot of sense. I just had a situation similar to, well, basic what you're talking about in terms of just feeling responsible for a student who has an outcry, and then you're wanting to make certain that the parent follows through and goes to the emergency room, and then you're like, oh my God, what if they didn't? And it's all these what ifs. But once you know that you've done everything that you can do at your level, then you have to be okay with that. Is there a follow-up? Yes, there is. You check in with the student, you in my case, student client, and you continue to monitor as much as you can. I'm fortunate enough to have a psychologist on staff, and he said just the same thing that you said. He's Dr. Tati. He said, Ms. McCray, you're not responsible for that. He said, did you do this? He said, that's all you can do. And it takes a moment, on each situation, I have to step back and say, okay, that is fine. All is well. I've done everything, but you can't help but wonder and question, because when Don mentioned something about the student driving the car that at another campus, that situation actually happened where a student called called his girlfriend, and the girlfriend was at school. The student was not. The girlfriend told a teacher some kind of way. My understanding is that the teacher left the campus, and these are not the appropriate things to do, of course. Left the campus because she felt, my understanding is that she said she had a rapport with the student. She felt like she could, I guess, talk them off the ledge. That, to me, that was absolutely the wrong thing to do. In that, I mean, she's trying to find them on the GPS, then also she's losing time. Right away, I would have called 911. She could have stayed on the phone with them or had the girlfriend stay on the phone with them. But I think it would have been a great idea to just 911, because he's in a 3-ton vehicle, and what if he said what he said, then you're having to deal with the time factor. Unfortunately, the student, some months later during the COVID period, did successfully, or what is it called, complete the suicide. He did do that. He was I believe it was May 5th, which was 3 days before his birthday. So unfortunately, and it sounds morbid for me to say unfortunately, I've had some experiences with students who have several suicide ideations. It does, as we know, it doesn't have any socioeconomic matter, male, female. In my situation, I mostly have had male who have had the situations or the suicide ideations. We've had students who we've had to refer out when it becomes beyond our scope at the school counselor level or beyond the scope of the school psychologist level. We encourage the parents to take them to the emergency room. Do they always follow through? No. If they don't, sometimes we, have another, conversation with them.
Mhm.
But then sometimes it may hinge on neglect. So then you're looking at, do I make a CPS call if the parent did not follow through with, we're telling them this is how they scored and this, you can't keep a student out of school, but we want to make certain they're safe, the student is safe, and we certainly want to make certain all of the students and staff are safe. So we're just vigilant on that, and we just don't play around. I don't want to say play around with it, but the moment something happens or a teacher lets us know something, we get on top of it. We do the best that we can in terms of letting the parents know what their next steps are. A lot of times, well, I don't want to say a lot of times, there are times when parents will say, well, no, this kid is just wanting attention, or, well, I'm going to let my brother, who he's really, has a great relationship, speak to him about it, rather than go to the appropriate professionals to get help. So there's so many different scenarios that you experience, and sometimes you may not be comfortable, but I promise in that moment, you do the right thing. You do the best thing for the student. I've had students who've had my phone number, and that's not something I advise. But on spring break, that it always happens on holidays. The Friday when it was a February 14th, this past Thanksgiving, spring break, you have students who may share out. I've had an officer to go to someone's house. We have this see something, say something. There's a hotline. A principal called me before on a break. So we had, pull out your computer, and that seems a bit much, but at the same time, you want to return to school with the same number of students you left with. But then there's just a fine line between doing a little bit too much of that, then doing all that you can and knowing what you're responsible for. I know I said too much, but you just really, I think, even like Missy said, just continue to take those courses, the continuing education, the CEUs, so that you can just make certain that you keep sharpening your saw in your craft and your skill. So
Yeah, I think this is a bigger, probably the reason these scenarios came up is because these
have happened.
are things that are happen, but they're also because the suicide rates have gone up
Yes.
systematically over 10 years. These are legitimate concerns, and there's even if you guys, when I can remember when I first started 15 years ago, we could do trainings on suicide prevention or suicide ideation or de-escalation, but there weren't a lot of them. Now they're everywhere. You can do a training, like you can go on right now on most CEU sites in most every state and find multiple trainings on this particular topic, like the suicidal ideation topic, and all the different assessments and different interventions, which is kind of dawned. I'd go back to that probably more than anything. Like for example, de-escalation interventions. There's specific now, like de-escalation interventions you can do with people, right? Like there's specific things you can do. Steps like risk assessments, and then steps inside of that you can do. You can spend a lot of time getting trained in this, and this is unfortunately is becoming a niche area for people, because it's a need. This is a large need, and I agree with Sheree. What you're saying is this is not a socioeconomic thing. It's not a gender thing. It's not an ethnicity thing. This is across the board. This is happening. And there's probably, there's multiple risk factors. There's probably multiple predictors of this and multiple risk factors of it. At the same time, everyone will come in contact with suicidal ideation sometime. Everyone will. it's going to happen sometime. And and I don't even, it used to be more with teenagers that you'd work with or college age students. It's not that anymore. It's adults too. It's multiple people that are even later in life, like beyond middle age. I mean, there's that's pretty scary too, actually, to me, a little bit. So anyway, these are great questions. I think they're good scenarios to bring up. I'm glad you brought them, Dawn. These are great. These are good discussions to have. I
Thank
think.
you.
Yeah. I hope it's helpful. I mean,
It is.
this is,
Thank you.
I wish to me, I've always thought this about what we do. I wish there was like one black and white answer for every single thing.
Me too. I'd be wanting you to give me that.
Yeah. And there's not. We can get close. We can get pretty close. And there's people that are way more skilled at this than I am in terms of like de-escalation and helping people kind of walk through. Way more skilled than me. I'm still learning things. I just learned about 2 new forms of therapy today that I've never even heard of before that I'm going to look into. So we're all, we all need to keep learning and growing and kind of using whatever we can to help people is kind of the name of the game. I mean, goodness gracious, I just got 2 they're not newsletters, but like pamphlets for CEU trainings on the Socratic method. The Socratic method hadn't been taught in like decades. And now that's coming back because that's a super great way to help people think through things and ask questions. And I mean, so everything's old is new again, I guess, but there's all kinds of things that I think it would be important for all of us to keep in mind, like any kind of training that you think is going to help you with whatever you're going to end up doing, you should do it. Whatever that is, whatever that, like if you're like, this is what I tell students in terms of like CEUs, because we got to do them anyway. We have to do them, X amount of CEUs anyway. Obviously, some have got to be ethical or ethics. And then, we gotta have choice. My suggestion is always like, whatever your area, pick that area and that grouping of CEUs and kind of focus on that and take CEUs that focus on those, whatever that area is, because there's tons of them now out there. And so that's what I would always suggest. And then the other suggestion is, once you kind of have done that and you kind of want to do something a little different, try to do a CEU in some area that you don't know that much about at all, and take it with, an expert that kind of knows, hey, here's what this is and here's what this looks like. And then kind of take that can be helpful too. Anything that helps us kind of stay current, that's kind of what we want to do. So but these are good. This is really good discussion from everyone.
You recall what those 2 therapies were that you never heard of?
Yeah,
before?
I can't remember. That's why they're so new. I can't even remember.
So
It's like
I wonder if they're on the
ITSS and CPA.
what if on the NCE, right?
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
I'll have to look it up. I can't
And last thing
remember.
before we leave, Dr. Bedard, Mackenzie, who's in our class also, who couldn't make class today, she stated that our the hours, the form for us to write all of our counseling hours on, that you don't have that posted, and she wondered if you could post it. I told her that we still had it from Prac 1, but she didn't know if yours was different. I think it's the same, correct?
It's the same thing. Yeah.
That's what I told her. Okay.
I made it late onto the call. I was actually looking for just the end of the semester supervisory form.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't save a blank copy of that, and I don't from last Prac, and I don't have access to that anymore.
Okay.
Is that, Dr. Bedard, is that on the Amberton page somewhere? I've looked, but.
So y'all gonna make me do all y'all's work for y'all. That's
Hey,
what this is.
Mackenzie.
That's what this
Hey,
is.
I looked before
I know
asked.
what's going on.
Say.
I know what's happening. I'm gonna do everybody's work. I'll have to find it. Where is it? I'll find it.
Okay.
And I'll put it on something. I think I found it.
Dawn, I got the green book.
How's it going?
It's good. I haven't really dove in yet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the word?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
I think I'm gonna plan on testing in May.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably just ease into it end of this month and then really study. for 3
Have
months.
you been onto the LMFT LPC website to look at all the steps that you have to do before you take the test? Because we've been talking about that, and that is so daunting.
I know.
What are y'all talking about?
Registering for your associate's license.
Oh
Yeah,
man, y'all,
that's the assistant.
come on now. Y'all
You've
got
had yours
this.
forever. It's so many steps, and
Hey, whoa. I had to mail mine in and fax it. So I'm gonna start bringing out I had to walk both ways uphill in the snow story for everybody.
it's a lot.
It
We
is
have
a
to get some
lot.
stuff to you guys for y'all. Like there's some stuff that you have to sign, and Dr. Johnson
Just
has
one
to fill
thing,
out
just
for
one
us.
thing, just one thing.
But we have to. It's so much that has to go on there before that, and we have to get our
It's just-
fingerprints done. You have to do
Oh
the.
my God. I mean, it's
the
just-
oh,
Pull out the
I mean,
counseling.
I don't even
One
know
step at a
why
time.
are we doing this? What's
Oh,
happening?
let me tell you, the worst part is that I filled out the whole application and got to the last page, and it doesn't let you save it. Like so I was like, what? Like you have to create an account, and then I filled out like all the pages, and then if you don't pay for it right then,
You're
it
in
doesn't let you
trouble.
save it.
I know.
That's the whole purpose of creating an account, so that I can save all the information.
That's why I wanted you guys, the very first class, I said, go on this website and y'all need to get in here and start. This is why. Get your head right. You just need to wrap your head around it. I put
It's a lot.
I put the document, Mackenzie, I put the document on Moodle for everybody.
And I'll tell you guys the last thing. I promise you I did it because I had to go in and
Thank
ask
you.
Dr. Johnson a question. I can tell, I'll have to log into my Amberton. I'll do that for next class because there's a question on there. It asks what type of program is Amberton? And I had no clue.
What do you
Because
mean?
it
What type
asks
of program?
your graduate school, like what accreditation is it?
University?
It asks what's the accreditation of your program, not, and so I
Yeah.
was like, I don't
That's
know.
on the Amberton main page, but it's not super easy to find.
So I just emailed. So then I had to get out of there again because I had to wait for Dr. Johnson to answer that. So he did. He answered it for me.
I'm gonna tell you what I tell my daughter. This is a tough life.
Oh,
It really is.
She hates it when I say that.
it is. It really is. But y'all should tell people that don't go and do those 8 pages unless you're ready to pay, because that was such a waste of my time.
Oh
Seriously.
man, I don't. To be honest with you, see, here's the deal. That's all state stuff. That has nothing to do with schools at all.
Right.
And that's probably changed since I got my license. Probably might have changed 10 times.
I'm sure it has.
How
So
they
I'm
do
just
it.
letting everybody in class know. Don't think you're like, oh, I'm ready to take my test today. It's
Well,
a
Dawn,
lot.
it's the same story signing up to take the MFT exam. It's like you better have all that stuff together. I had to fill it out like 3 times before I got it right, so I could get my testing code.
And then take the exam is hard. Exam's hard. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, the MFT exam's hard.
Yeah. I just know there's some stuff that you're gonna have to get the school to fill out before, and that has to be filled out and mailed in advance.
There's one form.
I wasn't expecting that, but now I know.
Okay, good for you. That's awesome. I'm proud of
you. Thank you, Dr. Bedard.
All right.
Next class is next month.
Hopefully it's not a stupid question, but how do we request that form? Stupid question.
For the test, you mean? Do you mean to take the exam?
Well, Dawn had said there's one form that we request from the school, and I remember seeing it, but I can't remember how we.
Are you talking about the practicum form?
No, whatever form Dawn mentioned, is that the practicum form?
Yeah, it's the practicum form. It has to be filled out. Not the practicum form that we put our hours on, not that one. There's another
state form.
The
that
state
comes
form.
from Amberton.
No, the state, when you go on the website, the LMFT website, it'll tell you you need all these forms to fax in, but mail in, fax in, upload, or whatever. So the form is on the website.
Yeah, you're gonna fill the form out and send it to Gina Termenstein.
Can you spell the last name?
No.
Gina Termenstein.
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 I'll send it. I'll send a one big blanket email to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
for all of those watching at home, here's new information starting with this class. This is very important. Starting with this class, I have to have your hours emailed to me before you can graduate, which is usually not a problem. No one's ever not giving me hours. But every once in a while, I let people kind of slide a little bit, but I have to now turn those hours in to the school directly in hard copy, which means I have to have them and print them off to give to the school. So I need everyone, if you're watching this, please, and I'm going to send this in a message too. I need your hours. So that's all part of that final paperwork, the evaluations that you're going to do and the final hours report. So it's all your hours from practicum 1 and 2. I need sent to me, emailed to me. I've actually got a place on Moodle that you can upload all of that to. Most people just scan it in on one form and then upload it. Or you can email it to me, but I have to have it to me, which normally what I try to do is have everyone turn it into me by week 9 instead of week 10. That means week 10, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. So if some people have already finished their hours, which is awesome. You can send in or turn in whatever you want right now. That's great too. There is a spot on Moodle for you to turn that in. If you're going on to practicum 3, you don't need to turn those into me. You still need to turn it into me, but you still have another practicum to get your hours. Okay. So this is LPC folks that are going to try to graduate in May. You will not be able to get you will not graduate, and you will not get that state form signed until we have those hours. Okay.
You said May. I thought they conferred degrees in February.
February, right?
Well, I'm just saying some people want to walk in May.
We'll walk in May, but we'll get our degrees, right? Early.
Yeah, well, you won't get it if you don't turn the hours in. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we will do that.
Which means you can't do your application for licensure. I mean, so we have to have that. Okay.
Cool.
It's the same thing you turned into Dr. Johnson. Same. I mean, I need the same exact thing. All right. Okay. Now, having said that, my plan was I was going to talk about private practice, which we can do for 30 minutes. I'm fine with it. I can talk for 3 more hours. It won't bother me. If you guys would like, we can stop here. This is a good stopping spot if we want to stop, or we can keep going, because what I'm going to share, I can share next time too. I'm not hard over on that one way or another. It really depends on where you guys are and what you think.
Maybe next time. It's been a long day.
I second that.
I'd like to spend more than a half hour talking about that subject, so maybe saving it for next time would be the way to go.
Sounds great. So here's what that will look like. You will, sorry, hang on. So I'm doing 5 things at once. Okay. Here's what that'll look like. I'm going to talk about a little bit of entrepreneurial. We're going to have an entrepreneurial discussion at the beginning. We're going to look at kind of what the research says about private practice. Then we're going to talk about like just real basic, super basic things like setting it up and what that looks like. We're going to talk about like how do we set our rate. We're going to talk about insurance. Should I get on insurance panels or not? How do I bill for that? We're going to talk about different softwares you can use now to manage your practice, and then questions. And there's always questions along the way, but it'll be kind of like highlights of all those things. And then we'll break into some groups and do a couple of group things. The idea behind it to me is that to have a discussion about some like practical things that you're going to run into, in whether you're in private practice or work for someone or part of a group. These are just things to think about. Like, for example, is there a benefit of saying, hey, I don't want to know if I want to go on my own. Maybe I want to join a group. You know, Dave and Missy have this great practice and I want to join it, but I don't want to own it. Should I be a W-2 employee? Did they do that? Or am I a 1099 contracted employee? And what does that mean for me tax wise? That kind of stuff that zero people told me anything about when I got out of school. And I made tons of mistakes and owed all this tax money that I didn't know nothing about until my CPA was like, hey, knucklehead, you're doing this wrong. Let's do it this way. So I'm going to basically share stupid things I've done so that you don't have to do it. Okay? Because that's really important to me. I want you guys to be successful. And these aren't big things either. These are little things. All right. And there's just kind of little nuances. All right. I have put online, I think some people have already seen it. I think I put it up. An interview I did with Chris Kendall, who's a CPA friend of mine, and he talked a lot about specific business planning and business practices. He went into a lot greater detail than I'm going to. It's a great, like an hour and a half, 2-hour video of a class that I did with him last spring. I would encourage you to watch that. It's super helpful. I just can't get him to come back and do it live again. He's just really busy. I keep trying to get him to come back live, but I can't rope him in during the semester. So that's something you can check out. Come with any questions you have about anything practice related next time. Any question that you have. All right, and I'll do my best to answer it. I think that's it. Any questions? Any other questions about anything?
When we register for the NCE, get all the stuff together, do you get to pick a date when the test, they have like a list that you get to choose from, or? Yeah,
you get like test sites and dates you can kind of choose whichever one you want to do. Yeah.
Okay.
You have a little freedom with that, and there's tons of options.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, multiple options, multiple sites, multiple dates. You can even do it from home.
Yeah.
You know, y'all can take the exam now. You can take it anytime. This time last year, you had to wait until you graduated, and they changed that in the spring or summer. I can't remember. You don't have to wait anymore. So
I just signed up and got my date. I'm taking it in February, and I'm doing the at home test.
Awesome.
Okay.
Go for it. You have to show your camera around your house and your room, and you have to do all this. You can't move. You can't look around or anything. Good for you. That's awesome. Has anybody taken it?
Not yet.
Okay.
So I have a question really quick. So with taking the test, I have clients where I'm at that I see one-on-one. So once we're done with our practicum, how does that all flow as far as, do you stop seeing your clients and they hand them to someone else typically until you finish out with the licensing part?
Well, you can't see clients without a license,
right?
Or if you're in school. So some people do the extended practicum class
so that they can continue.
Some people take a break and just stop and wait to get their license. It really just depends on you.
So if I don't want to lose my clients, because you build that rapport with each other, then I can sign up for like practicum 3 while I'm waiting on the licensure to come through.
It's extended practicum.
Extended. Okay.
Yeah. And I think we just had one person, I think it was Ken, maybe, I don't remember. There's a couple people I'm thinking of that took their exam, and that's what they were doing, is just waiting for their license to come through, and they got their license. They actually just dropped the class like a week ago or something like that.
Okay.
Because they got there. But you can't see clients without a license, and I'm going to say that in bold print. We've had students in the past try to do that, and that is against the rules, and you will get in big time trouble.
So is there a certain thing? Do you have to request for the extended practicum? That way you're covered?
No, it's just, you just sign up for the extended practicum class. I actually teach it.
Okay.
So technically you're still practicing under Amberton's umbrella.
Right.
At your site. That's what people do. What we started doing it for was, back in the day, you had to take all your classes, do all your practicum, graduate, then sign up for the exam, take the exam, and then do your application. So people were wanting to see clients. So we did the extended practicum so they could keep seeing clients while they waited for all of that to happen. That's what we did.
Right.
That's what the class is meant to be way back in the day. And now what people use it for is, you know, kind of like, hey, I'm going to take the exam, but I've got to wait for, I got to do my application and all this stuff. So while I'm waiting, if I want to see clients, a lot of people just take the extended practicum.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Dr. Bedard, I have a question about that. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
What if you're going on to do the second, like I'm doing MFT, but then I'm going to do the second degree plan. Can you still keep seeing clients while you're doing that or not because you're not in practicum?
No, you have to be in practicum to see clients.
Okay. Can you take the extended practicum while you're taking other classes?
I don't think so. I think you have to take that because technically you'd be graduated and finished with one program, and you have to finish the requirements academically of the other program before you enter the next practicum.
But I won't have a practicum left. And in your second degree, they do let you take classes with Prac 3 if you haven't already done it. They just don't let you do that on your first one.
I don't know. That's a good question that I don't know the answer to.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I do know students have tried to see clients without being in practicum or having a license, and I can just tell you that doesn't end well. So let's don't do that. But I don't know all of the moving parts of like finishing one degree and then trying to finish the other one. I don't know all the moving parts of that. That part I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
I should have Gina come on here sometime and let her explain all of it to you because she's the one that knows about all of it.
She does know. I wouldn't recommend talking to anyone else because I've gotten so much incorrect information through the course of this.
No. She knows everything.
Yeah.
And if you are nice to her and super nice, super sweet, she will be so helpful. But if you come at her hard, not smart. She will be very difficult because unfortunately people kind of yell at her a lot because she knows a lot, and which is unfortunate. So if you do have questions, just kind of be like, hey, can you help me understand? I think this is right. She will give you all the information you need. She knows everything about these programs. She knows exactly what you need to do. She'll be able to tell you exactly how it needs to happen. She's super helpful.
And you're going to send us her email, her contact information?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Go into the world, be free, and go eat dinner or go to bed or whatever you want to do.
Thank you, Dr. Bedard.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.
Be well.